My name is Kevin McGowan. I work for the Ventura County Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services, and during the Thomas Fire, I was the director for the county's Emergency Operations Center. So when the first reports started coming in, we knew right away that this was going to be a significant event. The place where it started, we knew already from lots of other conversations, tons of institutional knowledge with all of our different stakeholders, that this was like not a very good location for it to start. No location's good, but this is like on the spectrum of worse, right? Untouched fuel bed for as long as we've been recording fuel bed exposures in that area. Areas that were getting gusts up to 70-mile-an-hour winds. We had actually two starts. One started closer to the incorporated Santa Paula area. We also had another start further up the canyon, close to one of our universities. That's up there, a private university, Thomas Aquinas. And then that took off into a really rugged part of our upper Ojai area. So we had these two starts. The wind blew them together. Conditions were not ideal for anything to occur as far as fire suppression was going, just because of how bad the wind was blowing. It was bone dry. And so this evacuation became that number one priority. And through the duration of the event, we issued over 60 emergency notifications to include wireless emergency alerts, 2 wireless emergency alerts which contacted hundreds of thousands of people approximately, the emergency alert system, which is broadcast over television and radio, along with our locally maintained emergency notification system, VC Alert. And so those over 60 emergency messages touched on, at any point in time, we had over 90,000 people under an evacuation order. And the brunt of that was all taking place in that first 24 hours. So between the first 12 hours in that initial operational period, which really wasn't even an operational period, it was like the initial actions phase, because it just kept going and going. We had already issued dozens of emergency alerts. There was already 40,000+ people under an evacuation order. And then that just grew and grew and grew. So a big amount of our effort in that initial phase was getting that information out for residents to get out of the way of the fire. And number 2, coordinating that information so people, both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders, to include residents, had a good, clear picture of what was going on. So we launched our public-facing disaster website. People could go onto that disaster website and get real-time access to mapping programs that showed where the fire progression was, what was under evacuation, and areas of safe refuge. And then the other element that took place right away at the beginning of the fire was activating emergency shelters and places of safe refuge for people who were fleeing the fire. And that's always a unique challenge in and of itself, is sheltering. You're displacing a large population. Fortunately, in Ventura County, a lot of people have strong, close networks, and so they could go stay with family and friends that were in non-impacted areas. But there was still a significant amount of people that were impacted that needed assistance at shelters. To include one of our hospital facilities self-evacuated, and we had their entire patient clientele located in the shelter, and they were a special population in and of themselves. So we found at our shelter throughout that initial phase at night, really dynamic events occurring where the American Red Cross, the county's Human Services Agency, and then the county EOC were in lockstep trying to solve those problems. And fortunately, the activation of that shelter went really well at that initial phase. People had a safe place to go. We then had the animal services create an animal shelter at that same location. And then in addition to that, the incident command post was staged there. So the Ventura County Fairgrounds became a mini city that had many services going on. You had donations being dropped off there. You had this massive shelter being, along with large animal shelter being occurring there, and then a camp of over 8,000 firefighters and responders, all based in this one geographical location. So it became the central point of like supporting the incident there. And then the county EOC had a big role in supporting not the command post functions of that, but the shelter and the animal shelter. And so that initial phase, really, those were the big issues that took place. Prolonged through the entire event is the information management component. The County Emergency Operations Center, along with that public-facing website, also staffs a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week emergency hotline, where people were able to call in at 2 in the morning. They received an emergency notification that they needed to evacuate. In that emergency notification, it had a phone number for them to call to get more information. They could call that number, and they were always going to be speaking to a real, living, breathing human that was stationed here in the county, not being outsourced to some other location. And that proved to be a monumental task, but super beneficial, not just to the survivors that were being impacted, but also to us, because we could gain a lot of information from them that then we would be able to take action on, to whether it was to save lives or protect property. So it became a really good feature of this activation. In addition to that, we have a significant responsibility in sharing information and coordinating efforts amongst all the different departments and cities that are impacted. And then that then dovetails into our damage assessment, and we take a lead role on assessing the impacts of the event from a financial standpoint, and then also a damage standpoint. And we walk our way through that process. And that's all to encapsulate the bigger issue of recovery. And one of the most substantial things that the EOC did during the event really occurred second to the evacuations, was the establishing of the recovery process. And we initiated conversations with leadership on day 2 of the event. By day 3 of the event, we already had leadership personnel in place to create a unified recovery coordination group that encompassed the county and all the cities impacted, along with 5 task forces that were going to address all of the significant impacts of any disaster.